When you get to the higher levels of body language, this is where we start talking about micro expressions. When you're going through a sales call, you can tell when the topic may be uncomfortable for them, can help ask better questions. I care about you and I care about getting to the bottom of this problem. And all those micro expressions really are the telltale sign. Hey, sales world, welcome back to another episode of Ready, Set, Sell. Today, we're going to talk about a specific superpower that salespeople have. You know, there's a few, question asking is one of them, but today, if you nail this superpower down, it's going to turn doubters into buyers, cut through resistance, and instantly turn them into signed contracts. That's right, guys, we're going to be talking about trust. And of course, across from me, the amazing co-host, Michael Siervo.
What's going on, sales world? Thanks for having me, Donny.
Yeah, I love
Great intro,
doing this.
man. You nailed that intro.
Man.
Woo, I trust you.
You damn well should. An intro like that. That is going to be a theme today. Right. And you and me, I think you especially love this topic. A, because you're just so damn good at it. But B, because it is such one of those simple topics that sound so matter of fact, but when you get into the mechanics, it's what the masters truly know, right? So we're talking about trust, and we're talking about how when you gain trust, how to gain trust, the 5 ways to earn trust, and of course we can talk about, end off the show with all the things that instantly break trust.
Right. You know, Simon Sinek said, trust is the one thing that changes everything. And when you think about that, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you earn that trust, fantastic. There's going to be a lot more business. Expect abundance. If you break that trust, it's going to take you a long time to earn that back. And I think the title is, you know, ways to earn trust. The first word is of the focal word, of course, is trust. But the other word that we're focusing on is earning it. And I truly believe that over the next, 20 minutes or so is, how do you earn it? Trust isn't something that's just inherently embedded on you. You know, you automatically have it. Maybe sometimes, depending on familial situations, who knows? But for the most part, I find that we need to earn it. And especially as salespeople, because most people, most potential prospects unfortunately, are more cynical. They're like, oh, no, salesy. I don't really trust this guy.
Right.
That's exactly what they say. I don't know if I trust this guy.
Right.
And so I think exactly what you said, we were chatting about this earlier, that it is a superpower. It is something that is often taken for granted as a matter of fact. But if you focus on how to earn that trust, you can definitely definitely increase your client base for future business.
And that's why sales is so incredible, because especially when you take the cold call, taking somebody who they don't know you, right. You're almost going to intrude. You're going to wedge yourself into their life and you're going to wow them, solve some problems and help them open up their wallet to solve their problems faster. So we're going to jump into the 5 ways to gain trust today. The first one is just amazing. I've studied this for years, and I'm going to throw this right at you because you have personally taught me so many sub-communication through body language.
Okay. Yeah, I think body language is huge, because most communication is actually nonverbal cues and nonverbal body language, how you stand, how you're looking, especially when you're talking to somebody, look at them in the eyes, and not be disengaged, right? I would never buy off of anybody who can at least look me in the eyes or is looking somewhere else who's not fully engaged. So I think body language is huge because it conveys so many messages that the client will remember. They'll feel it. They might love all of the bells and whistles and benefits that you're posting out there, but if they don't get a good vibe from you by the simple way you stand, even proximity or how you look at them, that's going to deter them from potentially buying. And in fact, there's a statistic that said clients will move 80% of the time. A client will move from one company to the other company if they don't feel like they trust the salesperson.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah, wow, it's huge. 80% will move if you don't trust it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the products being sold out there, unless you have a true monopoly, there's always an alternative. You really don't like Coke, you can go to Pepsi.
That's right.
You know what I mean? There's always an alternative. And I think if you don't build that trust initially, or if you break that trust, it's very, very difficult to earn it back. So the first thing is, yes, of course, body language is huge.
And it's great where you started with the eyes too. It is the number one. It's a great place to start. If you're ever going to learn about body language, start with the eyes. It's the windows to the soul. It's where how the poker players tell you, right? Your poker tell. But I remember when I was knocking doors and going door to door doing those sales, especially with the seniors. The seniors, how they read you best is through your eyes. And that's how they really try to discern if, are you truthful or not? They're looking for the micro expressions as well. Where you're going to slip, where you're uncomfortable, where you're just flat out lying. And I noticed that especially with the seniors, they're very in tune with the eyes. I remember Gary Vee says this lots about when he was young, 13 years old, when he was selling cards, playing cards, sport cards. He would he'd have his table laid out with all his cards, and he would watch everyone who walked up to the table, their eyes and what they're looking at. And that's how he would discern the popularity of the cards themselves, almost his own micro market research. So with the eyes, it's definitely a main one, but you've also taught me lots about the hands.
Yeah, it's a huge one. Oftentimes, I'm a hand talker. I tend to be, very expressive with my hands. But I was reading a study that if someone is overly, if they're posturing so big, you could tell. I guess it could break that trust. So, for instance, if someone, and in this study that I was reading, if they're talking like this and their hands are overly expressed above their shoulders or above their waist, it indicates a little bit of exaggeration, right? So, hey, I caught this fish. It was this big, right? But if you said, hey, I caught this fish, it was about this big, I'd probably trust you, right? This is a little bit too of it's an exaggeration.
Right.
Of course, with your hands having that open posture versus, closed-handed, tight fist, be a little bit open. But if you're going to be open, studies have shown that have it around waist level. So when you're talking like this, hey guys, very waist level, versus it's a little bit too big. And I know that as salespeople, one of the cues to gain confidence is take up a lot of space. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be like this. It could mean just standing upright.
Right.
Having confidence upright, because that can also be another body language cue. Because you look at a guy, he looks confident. And trust, one of the things about earning trust is, am I confident? Do I trust that you will tell me the information I need to know?
Yes.
Right. So it's that having that posture. If someone is, slouched down and they don't have that confidence, I don't necessarily know if the information that they're conveying to me is the right information. So posture, positioning of hands, of course, open hand positioning is important versus closed hand. If you're doing some public speaking, you don't want to put your hands in your pocket.
Never hands in pockets.
Hands in your pocket. You can also do the Obama or the Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Like this. I did not sleep with that woman.
Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah. So, but just having your hands open or going like this. But I think it's opening yourself up a little bit more, but not too much, and not closing yourself off.
Yeah, and about hands, I forgot what I was going to say. So we're just going to move on to the next one.
Let me, I'll add one more thing, Donnie, is also posture. Like
yes.
Certain space. I've seen salespeople literally walk up, like a large male walk up to a small female in a sales situation, whether they're buying a car, and stand very close over them.
Right.
Intimidating, bullying them into buying. And that could be I've seen this many, many times. Some salespeople do that. They use their stature to intimidate. I think you could build a lot of trust by respecting people's boundaries.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's another area that we could talk about, but that is, you want to generate some type of trust, respect people's boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get to the higher levels of body language, this is where we start talking about micro expressions and micro expressions where it'll just flash across the face. You almost have a microsecond to pick it up. And I know for myself, and anyone who's high EQ and great salespeople have had a lot of reps at it, you can tell so much about what's happening when you're going through a sales call or a presentation, or maybe just a problem gathering session with your client. And you can always tell when maybe not necessarily lying, because that's not the intention, but we can tell when the topic may be uncomfortable for them. And maybe that's where we can help ask better questions and help them understand that, hey, I care about you and I care about getting to the bottom of this problem. And all those micro expressions really are the telltale sign. Yeah, even as simple as smiling. Going back to body language, micro expressions, smiling. No one wants to walk up to a salesperson who is very intimidating, who's not smiling, who's not welcoming. As a salesperson, if a prospective client is walking up to me,
you should be smiling because that client doesn't owe you anything. They don't need to be in front of you. The fact that they're walking up is a blessing. And I'm like, yes, I'm excited. So as cheesy as it sounds, smiling goes a long way.
Yeah. On the flip side, smiling too big shows desperation.
True.
And
Eagerness.
nothing breaks trust like looking too eager.
Right.
Let's move on to the next one here. And this one is going to be a much more of an advanced type of skill, and that's voice control.
Right.
Again, we're talking about the person who's over eager, overexcited, and it shines through the voice. So for yourself, what are some tips you guys have for the audience here about voice control?
You know, if you're dealing with a very, depends on what the topic, right? There are certain salespeople who are excitable by nature. But
That's
they're excitable by nature, and you might have to either tone it down or increase it. I think, and this is a future talk where we're going to be talking about tonality and that utilization of your voice. But I think having vocal control, whether it's your volume, you could earn a lot of trust by being able to respect their space. Don't yell over them. Don't talk over them. Don't be condescending. Controlling, of course, your cadence and how you speak, the speed in which you do. So for instance, if you're presenting something that's a little bit more technical, don't be scared to slow it down a little bit. Mirror that person, take a pause, ask them questions, and utilize your voice. Your voice is such a powerful instrument to be able to convey a message or also extract information that you can utilize in a future question or conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I noticed that especially, I do a lot of phone sales. Mine's pure phone. I don't even go on Zoom. So tonality, the cadence matters so much. It's everything. And here's something interesting. I always find that if I'm a little bit sleepy or if I'm hungover or something, I do my best calls because I'm not excited. I'm the excitable salesperson. So if I'm excited for the prospect, because I can know what the solution will do for them, I almost drop the sale because I get excited and they can tell like, oh, this guy's going to close me on something here. The heck?
Right.
But I notice that if I'm tired, if I'm kind of beat up from, not literally, but beat up from the week or whatnot, if I'm sick or if I'm a little bit hungover, I'm always closing those first of the day because I'm calm and I'm just running through the motions, and the voice control comes out very, very baseline.
Right.
Very, very baseline, very calm, and it comes out in a great way. Yeah.
And you know, further to that, Donny, I think when you're talking about voice control, it's also having and knowing when to pause, right? So if someone asks a question, give them that respect to answer the question.
Yes.
or think about that question. So again, understanding how you convey the message vocally, using your voice properly, can establish or build that layer of trust.
And what's interesting is when we get to the masters, or the most well-known coaches in the game, they really get into voice control, right? Not Jordan Peterson, but Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. His training program is very tonality based. He's got his different frameworks, but then he really coaches on specific tactical tonal patterns that he has. And you'll see a lot of it if you watch the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yep.
One of his favorite closes is sound fair enough? And he calls it the reasonable man. That, hey, I'm a reasonable person, you're a reasonable person. This is just a logical solution that we're doing together. Jeremy Minor is another one. You're going to see him all over Instagram these days. The 7, whatever, he's got some fancy name. But his tonal patterns are very, I don't know, and very almost, I don't say sheepish, but they're not aggressive. Right. They're the opposite of that overbearing guy, car sales guy you mentioned before. It's very much, I don't really know if I can help you yet, but would you be opposed to us talking about what's the biggest problems you're having right now? And if we can help you, maybe we can talk with some solutions. And that type of tonal pattern, it completely lowers their guard, because now they're, oh, he's not trying to sell me whatsoever. And then you have the Grant Cardone, who's just the most aggressive guy ever.
Right.
So that voice control at the highest levels is absolutely everything.
Right. And I don't think there's anything right or wrong. It depends on what your audience is. I mean, Elon Musk is very technical. He's not the greatest speaker, but when he's on stage and he's speaking, he demands that you trust what he's saying, because it's a very technical topic. But if there's a guy who's overly eccentric and is very technical, I'd be a little bit wary. That's me. Like I want my technical guy to sound like a nerd.
Yeah, right.
And also, you just don't want to be monotone. So utilize inflection points.
Right.
That's really huge. One that keeps the conversation rhythmic. It keeps them engaged subliminally. They're like, well, okay, I'm part of this journey versus I want to go to sleep, or this guy's annoying me because his pitch is way too high.
Right. Great way to build trust. Mm-hmm. Here's one that's almost a superpower within the superpower, and that's being funny. No faster way to earn trust than if you have a good sense of humor and you can break through any sort of awkwardness. You can make you can really disarm tension with a good joke at a well time. And so I think funny people really have a leg up in the same sales world.
Because, I feel like they can disarm that person, and they're not so desperate. It comes across as they're really here. They're enjoying life. They're enjoying the moment. And if a sale comes out of this is fantastic. But if it's too serious, again, it depends. You got to know you got to know your audience. You have to know when to use humor. There's a right place and time. But I think being funny goes hand in hand with being a great storyteller.
Yes.
Which is also, that point number 3 could have been being funny, but also could have been be a great storyteller. If you can create a relatable story, and usually humor is very relatable, right? If you can create a relatable story and an anecdote with the solution that you're trying to present, you could establish a little bit more trust that way, because it just shows the human side of things.
You know who's probably some of the best storytellers in the world are magicians.
Yeah,
they are going to capture your attention very quickly, and whether they're funny or not, they have this type of quirkiness about them where they're going to, you can tell they're not entirely serious, and that they're bringing your intrigue, they're gathering and they're building intrigue, because you don't know it's a magic trick until the very end.
Right.
Unless they just come and say, hey, you want to see a magic trick? But they still have to make sure that they get the intrigue. And if they throw in those little quips, those little funny little things that they do, strings you along and builds up this mountain of excitableness until, of course, they hit what's that called? The specific word for the actual
prestige.
The prestige.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's the prestige. Yeah, I find that the magicians are so good with. The good ones are good with humor because they take you on this journey. And here's the interesting thing about a magician. You know what's going to happen. You know that you're going to be tricked. You're going to be fooled. You are going to be, there's misdirection. There's a bunch of different things. You know this is going to happen, yet you enjoy it. You love it. You love being fooled. And you ultimately, the end result is a meaningful, it's a positive one. And that's really what you want to have as a salesperson. You want it to be a positive experience at the end.
Yeah. On that same note, guys out there, girls out there, if you guys are doing your sales pitches, if you have your pre-canned jokes, understand if you just ramble off the joke as if it's part of the script and it sounds so dry, that's how I can instantly know you're reading off a script. Because your lame ass joke, you just threw it out. I'm the 8th person you said it to, and it's such a tell.
Right.
Don't do that, guys. Really, that's all about the attitude and delivering it with that care, with that timing, with that empathy that, hey, this is the first person that's heard it today.
Right. Sometimes just being yourself is funny enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can just talk about it, like something funny. Like you don't have to try so hard. And again, people trust other human beings, if they can relate.
Right.
Right. And I think using humor, breaking down barriers and walls that are in front of you. I think cracking jokes is a great way just to get that conversation going.
Speaking about relatability, here's number 4 on the gaining trust superpowers: speak their language. And so I've got a few of them here, but I want to throw this at you. Industry specific terms.
Okay.
How to gain trust by just simply knowing the terms that your profession will say, use, and the jargon of your industry.
I think where salespeople really miss a great opportunity to convey trust or establish trust is when they utilize industry-specific jargon to show that they're smarter.
Yes.
That's a huge problem, because all of a sudden they're using acronyms and they think that the client is, wow, this person's so smart, I trust them. That almost all the time just eliminates the human connection. I think you can understand certain jargon, industry-specific stuff, But if I were speaking to somebody who's different, who's not part of my industry, I would essentially, how I'd position it is say, hey, Donny, many people who aren't familiar with engineering have probably never heard of this. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but here's a great term. Or, in financial planning, you might not have heard of dollar cost averaging. I'm not sure if you've heard it. Like, you disarm them, not making them feel like they're stupid, saying, hey, a lot of people don't understand this, but here's a term you might want to use. And what it does is it shows respect. It allows them to save face, but also shows that they know what they're talking about. So I love, we need to be able to use industry specific stuff. I also think that to earn trust is you need to know your product inside and out.
Yes.
You need to know your industry. You need to know competitors. I'm not saying bash competitors, but know your industry enough that if a client asks a question as to where the specific solution fits, you can win them over by saying, well, here's where it fits, here's where it doesn't fit.
Another one in the speak their language realm, culture.
Yeah.
What faster way to gain trust than to have some insight into their culture? A lot of times when I speak to Spanish people, if they come to a viewing on the way out, mucho gusto.
Yeah.
And they just light up. They're, oh, mucho gusto.
Yeah. Like just understanding that culture, because it shows that you made an effort.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I know this is big, especially in Quebec, where, there's a big language battle there, where they feel like their language is being taken away or overrun by English. And when Anglophones come in, we're going to speak French, we're going to butcher it. Yeah. But the fact that we appreciate their language, that goes a long way for them, because they want to preserve their culture and their language. Big one coming up, especially for y'all salespeople out there, at the end of January, third week, Chinese New Year. So you guys have any Chinese clients knowing these phrases like gong hei fa choi, that goes huge. If you say that to a Chinese person and that January 21st, 22nd, they're going to light up. They're going to invite you over for dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, it shows effort. It shows respect. It says, hey, look, I see you, right? I understand you. I'm going to make an effort to get to know you better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's number 5. We kind of gone over this a bit, right? But this is less about us actually doing the language as opposed to having the actual proof, which is be an expert using tools such as social proof, reviews, degrees, right? Accreditations, achievements, accomplishments, to show that, once again, like you said before, that you know what you're talking about. You are an industry specialist.
Right. Yeah. And having, you mentioned social proofing. There's a study here from Nielsen Global Trust in Advertising. They did this advertising report and it said that 92% of customers trust recommendations from friends and family more than any form of other advertising. For that social proofing, if you have someone who's backing you up, who's a great center of influence, who's a champion in what you do, and says, hey, if you want Airbnb, you got to talk to Donny. He's the best. That automatically establishes that trust, because if you trust me as a human being, or you trust my opinion, there you have a higher probability of earning that other person's trust just by leveraging that social proofing. So I think that's important. I also think that I'm not saying you need to have a degree or you need to have a certain certification for specific industries, but I find that the salesperson who's constantly learning, who's constantly educating themselves as to what's happening around them in their industry or just even outside of it, you can earn a lot of trust, because that person is a knowledgeable person just in general, and they'll find a way to make this solution fit in your world.
Yeah, yeah. On a more micro scale, back when we were doing door-to-door water heaters, again, very unsexy. It's a very boring topic. So how do we gain trust? We used to teach them that there's 3 levels of trust that you can deploy in the streets. One is having your clipboard just filled. And so you kind of, when you're inspecting your water heater, you just kind of put it down where they can see it. And you want to have all your deals stacked on top so that they see, hey, my neighbors are doing business with this guy, and they see the neighbors' addresses on the bills or on the contracts or the work orders. The second level of trust is when we're installing a water heater at your neighbors. So literally when you knock the door, you see a gigantic truck pulling into your neighbor's drive yard, boop, 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 and they're wheeling out a big dirty water heater, breaking down this cardboard box, and there's this beautiful shining white water heater to bring into your neighbors. That's level 2. Level 3 is when they're so sold they leave they say, hey, have you talked to Michael next door? I'll come with you.
Right.
And now they're coming with me door to door, knocking all the neighbors. And that's the ultimate referral. That's where you're signing up the whole block.
Right. Yeah. You've taken a prospect into an advocate or a champion of your business. I think trust ultimately comes down to, do I feel good? Are the words that you're using, the way you're making me feel, the positioning, are you respecting, are you listening to what I'm saying? Do I feel good? It starts off like that. I also think that it's really important in order for us to build trust. And I think it was, I can't remember, but someone said, trust is earned when actions meet words.
Yes.
Right. And that's so powerful because it's easy to say you have all these accolades and achievements and I could do this or do that. But ultimately, when they become a client, that standard, that expectations are not met, that's instantly a great way to destroy trust. So trust is established when you say you do this and all of a sudden your actions match your words.
Especially as you do it continuously over time, has like that compounding effect.
Absolutely.
Because you're putting your name on the line, you have that accountability, and eventually just know that this guy's dependable. You can work with this guy.
Yeah.
So those are our 5. Those are our 5 ways to gain trust. But you know what? We're going to throw in a bonus one here. And number 6, what do you think about this one? Being really good looking.
Right, that's tough, man.
Being really good looking. Not everyone wins that jackpot, but check this out. Daniel Haramesh. And I apologize there, Daniel, for butchering your last name. Haramesh. He's an economics professor at the University of Texas in Austin, wrote the book, Beauty Pays, Why Attractive People Are More Successful. And according to his research, attractive people are likely to earn an average of 3 to 4% more than a person with below average looks, explains my paycheck. That adds up to $230,000 more over a lifetime for the typically good-looking person. Get this, Dr. Hammermesh estimates an average looking worker is likely to make $140,000 more over a lifetime than an ugly worker. So that spread between a good looking person and the ugly is now $370,000 just for winning the genetic lottery.
You know, I would add to that looks, it depends, right? And because I think when you're looking at someone who's attractive, it could be physical beauty, sure. Some cultures like a specific style or look, and some industries like another one. Let's say, for instance, if you're a scrawny, skinny guy trying to sell, huge, earth-moving vehicles or, oil and gas stuff, like maybe that doesn't fit. But I think if you look attractive, if you take care of yourself, if you're wearing the right attire, you don't necessarily have to be a Victoria's Secret, Brad Pitt or a Victoria's Secret runway model. But if you take care of your appearance, you take care of your hair, you take care of the way you look, that is attractive. I think effort is attractive.
Yes.
Effort when you're trying your best, whether it's what you say, the knowledge that you have, the way you appear, you look, all of that entire package could earn some trust. And then once you have that trust, if you can consistently do what you say and live up to that expectations time and time again in perpetuity, then you will not only establish trust, but earn trust of more people around you.
Well said. Well said. I also like how when we talk about barometer of beauty, you went Victoria's Secret models and I said Brad Pitt. Yeah. You know what else is pretty beautiful? Braces.
I like the braces. That's effort, man.
It's a half grill.
It's a half grill. Right. That takes effort.
Well, that's it, guys. This is going to be a quick episode, but we hope we gave you a lot of actionable content. These are 5. Again, they sound so simple, but if you understand the nuances and you understand the concepts that we're teaching here, establishing trust, keeping trust, and maintaining trust the fastest way. It is an absolute superpower. Turn doubters into buyers. Again, this is Ready, Set, Sell. You're here with Donny, Wong, of course, your mega co-host, Michael Siervo. We'll catch you next time. In the meantime, say it again. Ready, set, sell.